Welcome to Female Fluence. We are a place of women empowering women. This is a safe environment where females are not judged nor afraid to flourish. My goal is to help you live an energized life of balance, whether as a mom, a wife, or in your profession. It is time to have self-worth and self-compassion. Live in the present moment and surround yourself with only healthy connections. So join me, Promash Shur, a woman empowerment life coach, an educator, and a mother of three, to help take you on a journey of true identity and inspiration. As parents, few things are as distressing as seeing our child unwell. That feeling of dread when your intuition tells you something is wrong, only to have it confirmed later, is heart-wrenching. Now picture being informed that your baby has a rare brain disorder, casting doubt on their ability to walk or talk. It's a moment of profound upheaval that countless parents of children with rare diseases confront. Nearly 5 years ago, one family found themselves in a doctor's office, grappling with a devastating diagnosis for their infant son, Eli. His crying and sleepless nights led to the discovery of FOXG1 syndrome, a rare and severe brain disorder. Since then, they have dedicated themselves to seeking a cure for this condition, which continues to affect their now almost 5-year-old son. FOXG1 syndrome is a neurological and developmental disorder that affects boys and girls. Symptoms of FOXG1 usually begin in infancy, often in the second month of life. Irritability occurs first with repeated seizures, occurring later on, and these seizures are typically difficult to treat with medications. They also have delayed development, intellectual disability, and trouble walking and sitting, or can have difficulty seeing. Patients with this syndrome usually have an abnormal MRI scan of the brain. Today, I'm honored to welcome Ilissa Reich, a former fashion executive who has transitioned her career into passionate advice for families with children who also have special needs. Ilissa, alongside her husband, Scott, faced the most challenging day of their lives when their son received a diagnosis of a rare disease. However, instead of succumbing to despair, they actually chose to channel their grief into action by co-founding Believe in a Cure Foundation, a nonprofit foundation that is just dedicated to finding a treatment for FOXG1. Established in 2019, this foundation has had a significant impact, raising millions of dollars and supporting over 50 research and development projects globally. Through this journey, Ilissa has gained profound insight into the challenges faced by numerous families grappling with similar daily struggles. Despite her own pain, she has tirelessly worked to provide a platform for mothers of children with special needs to connect and find a special community together. Ilissa's remarkable story has gained national attention and has been featured on platforms like the Today Show, as well as People magazine. Ilissa, thank you so much for joining me on Female Fluence today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me and for that really nice introduction that is much better than I could have summed it up myself. So thank you.
You're very welcome. So Ilissa, let's start by sharing a little bit about yourself. If you can tell us a little bit about your background before, I guess, you even became a mother, before all of this, right? Because we used to have a different life.
I read a quote today that said, "Talk to me before my journey with special needs. You knew me then, but you don't know me now." I feel like I was a completely different person. I grew up in a suburb on Long Island, a brother and a sister, and my parents and we never, I never had faced a hardship like this before. I went to school in DC, came back and was living in the city and working in fashion. And just like anybody else, was ready to start my life. Met Scott and we got married. And soon after, talked about wanting to have a family.
Goes to show that we really don't know. We have no idea what our future will bring to us, right? So,
Definitely.
what were the first indications that something was wrong with your son, and how long did it actually take the doctors to make a correct diagnosis?
So that's, one of the toughest parts of this entire journey was those initial few months. My son was born almost 5 years ago now. He'll be five in April. And he came home from the hospital and everything was fine. My husband was so happy that he had a son and, all of the things. And I think it was very soon after that we noticed that something wasn't right. Eli has an older sister who's almost 2 years older than him. So we had had a little bit of familiarity with, what it's
Right.
like to have a newborn, but this was something I never saw before. He would scream 24 hours a day. They would never stop screaming. And usually they would say, everyone would tell me he had colic. I would rock him, I'd push him around the neighborhood. I'd walk around my house all night long, around and around and around. He had a lot of trouble eating. He couldn't really coordinate the suck swallow of the bottle. That was another indicator. He wasn't making eye contact in the beginning. Um, he looked very uncomfortable. He looked like he was in a lot of pain. And we just didn't know why. So that obviously started a journey of trying to figure out what was wrong. And it kind of started, I guess, July 4th weekend was really the indicator. I lost it and I took him to the hospital and I said, there's something really wrong with my son and I don't know what it
At
is.
this point, how many months was he, or how old?
So May, June, like 2.5 months.
Oh, okay.
But it was just out of control. He never slept. He had this crazy acid reflux. So everything that went down was coming up. He was choking all the time. And I took him to the hospital. And I said, I don't know what to do. And they said they started to do a series of tests and nothing was really coming back, nothing conclusive. And I started going every day. I was taking him to a different specialist. Let's try GI. Let's try neurology, everything under the sun. And nothing was really enough for them to be able to say something's wrong. We were switching formulas. We were uh, so many tests. I was traveling to the city, out East Long, all over the place, but to Westchester, trying to find specialists, somebody who could help me. And eventually we got to the point later in the summer where they said, let's do, you should see a geneticist. Um, and they should do an MRI. And the MRI came back, as you were saying in your intro, the MRI came back showing that something was wrong.
So that's the
Um,
main indicator, right? Is the
yeah,
MRI of the brain that shows that it's abnormal.
did at the end of July. It was actually my husband's birthday. We went in and they knew kind of immediately from the MRI that something wasn't right. And then the geneticist ran us, a series of tests and it came back September 19th, 2019. I remember it very well because my diagnosis day that they called us into the office, which I knew was the first step that something wasn't right. And they sat us down and she looked at me. She was a lovely woman. She looked at me and she said, it's not good. This isn't good. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know much about this. I've never seen anybody with this. But from what she could tell about it, his life was going to be severely, severely impacted.
First of all, I would just like to say, I mean, when you were telling me your story, I have three kids of my own, and I was just thinking back to those days when, you don't know, each child is different and the babies are crying and obviously the baby can't tell you what's wrong and you want to just pull out your hair. You have had no sleep. You don't understand. And everyone you talk to, obviously, like in your situation, would be like, oh, it's just a stage. He doesn't like the milk, change the formula, change the bottle. And so, as a mom, to finally be like, no, I know it's something beyond just being, a picky baby that just is not happy. It's something a lot more. And then I mean, I know realistically for any kind of diagnosis, when you're trying to find out what it is and all the doctor appointments and the referrals and going to one person and get transferred to another person, and everyone's like, oh, well, no, I don't see anything is wrong. And then you go home and it's like, in a way, you're like, you want to find an answer, but then at the end, it's like, oh my God, was this the answer I want? But so that must have been just on its own such a challenging journey.
It was all I could remember is getting in the car, out of the car, in the car, out of the car. I had this little tiny baby. And at the time, when we didn't know, I was going by myself. We didn't know there was something so terrible.
Uh,
In and out, and all over to millions of doctors and telling them the same symptoms over and over and telling the same story a million times. But at the end of the day, as horrible as this diagnosis is, I always think it's better that you have a diagnosis than you don't. At least I have
sure.
an idea of what I'm dealing with.
What was your initial reaction? Just I'm trying to picture you and your husband in the doctor's office, and you're thinking that they're going to say, "Oh, like, he has this situation, or maybe you need to change this." And it's like all of a sudden they give you such a solid, heartbreaking diagnosis.
I like could remember the feeling so well that when anybody ever says anything to me about it, I automatically start to, because I will always remember sitting in that chair and like what they said. And I was holding onto one hand, my husband and my dad had came with us, and I was holding on my other hand with my dad, and they said it, and I like fell out of my chair. And I was just like, it can't be true. It can't be true.
Oh,
It like brings you right back to it. Like it's like
I can
I can't
see I
remember
can
so many things
see
from
that
the
your pain right now.
I can't remember so many things, but that I will like that's a feeling I won't ever shake. It's like almost like a grieving situation. It's like almost, and I don't want to compare it to death, but it is kind of like it because it's like a death of the life that you were gonna have or that he was gonna have. Like,
Right. That you imagined for him, right? When we have kids, we imagine this life for them.
yeah, that they're gonna live.
Um, my heart completely goes out to you. Now, exactly what you're saying. I mean, I would feel that you would go through the stages of grief, right? First, you're really upset, then you're just so angry, and it's life is not fair. But it was incredible to me how you were able to pull yourself at some point together, you and your husband, and convert your grief into action. I mean, how did you do this? This is
Yeah.
just remarkable for me.
Thank you so much. I think that, you have two ways to look at it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I came home from that appointment and it was almost like it was like someone died and people were bringing me food and I wasn't, the first few days I wasn't leaving my bed. I couldn't function. I was done. Um, but I do attribute a lot of it to my husband. He has a very go-getter personality and has helped me through a lot of this. But together we decided that we can't just sit here and cry and say, this is it. This is it for us. This is it. This is the hand we were dealt. But that wasn't really an option for us. Our option was, we have one life. Let's give it all we got to figure out how do we make our life better and his life better and our other kids' lives better. So it was like a no-brainer. It was like, we got to do something. This can't be the death sentence that we heard. It has to be something different. And if not for us, then for the countless other people
Right.
that are facing and are going to face the same
Yes.
situation we felt.
Is FOXG1, is it genetic, or did you have to get your other kids tested, or how does that work?
So it comes in multiple forms. So the Bakshi one that my son has is something called de novo, which means that it's just bad luck, is what they said to us. So as I said before, my son has an older sister who is healthy, and we did have a son after. And because even though the chances are of this happening again are insanely tiny, my own well-being and my own mental health during my third pregnancy, we did create a test just to make sure. I did IVF, and we created a specialized test just to triple bazillion check our boxes that it couldn't happen again. Because even though
Is
which is
there
just
a chance that it could happen to your
no,
grandkids?
no,
No. Okay.
unless it's
Because
completely
I know with other rare diseases, I mean,
yeah.
I did another episode with Angel 8 actually. And so she was telling me that it was one of those things that you have to test for that gene. And if you have it, there's that, tiny, 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 tiny chance that you might, but in your situation, you're saying it's not. So
No, they don't face the same situation that I did, but I didn't know either. So no, but I was, as like any parent would, I just needed to know because the chances of having a one time were so small. So percentages mean
of
nothing to me
course,
anymore.
of course, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Now, Alyssa, how did you guys realistically become scientists overnight? I mean, tell us about that journey and about starting this foundation called Believe in a Cure. I mean, what is the goal of it? How are you getting people on board and deciding which projects it will fund? And how did you educate yourself? Because you're like, I'm not sure what your husband does, but you were in the fashion industry and now it's completely something that you're not familiar with, that you guys really had to learn and educate yourself to be able to create such a, nonprofit organization.
It's so interesting. If you had seen the first few weeks after a diagnosis, we were getting Amazon boxes of that genetics for dummies, science for dummies, like
Mm.
every book under the sun. We were just like reading. all the time. So basically how we started is I think the day that we got the diagnosis was our initial Google search of just what is the FOXG1 gene? What does it do? Who are people who have written about it? Who are people who have studied it? Where are these scientists? How do we get to them? That was the initial. And I think a few weeks later we hit the road and we went to Boston. Initially was our first trip because there was a scientist there who had written something about FOXG1. We were going to meet everyone who had touched this gene. And that was the birth of Believe in a Cure. We called it Believe in a Cure. The ELIs for Eli and Believe, because we needed to believe in something. We needed to believe in something not only for ourselves and our own coping, but for our son.
Yeah.
And I think so. Believe in a Cure has two main goals. One is to find a therapy that will improve the lives of patients with FOXG1. And the other goal of the foundation is to help others in the rare disease community, because we're kind of all in this together. I have met so many people through this journey. There are so many rare diseases. It's interesting now. It's almost like I feel like a little bit like the poster child for rare disease in my own community. And that anytime someone has a rare disease, I feel like I meet them and we speak the same language.
Of course.
That's kind of the two goals of Believe in a Cure. And we've really met some amazing, amazing scientists of the way who've become mentors to us, who have really helped us to become experts in this field. I never saw this on my list. My husband definitely didn't. He can even speak to it better, but we have transformed our lives. We have a mission in life now that we didn't have before.
What does your husband do? Is he still continuing that job, or now this is the
Yes,
main?
he's a lawyer and he's still continuing the job, but he eats, sleeps, and breathes finding my son. 24 hours a day. He's doing this. And together we are trying to do what we can to bring hope to ourselves and the rest of this community.
I love it, and I love the name. Just the word believe just automatically gives you some hope. You automatically you change your mindset. So what kind of impact has it made so far as of today?
So we made great strides in the last few years. So the foundation has been around since 2019. And in the last 5 years, we have developed mouse models and novel cell lines and therapeutics that are not yet in the clinic, but are on their way and we will continue to work on until there's an actual treatment. So that's one hand. And on the other hand, we have also developed a grant program where we are able to provide therapeutic equipment standards, wheelchairs, adaptive strollers, gait trainers to different families who are in need but can't afford it themselves. So we've been able to try to make a difference in the community at large also.
That's great. That's unbelievable. Now, speaking of community, you have a wonderful community yourself, right? With your friends and family and teachers that actually raise money for your foundation, which is just so inspiring. What have you learned from humanity from your community?
That you're going to meet very special people along this road, that they always say, quote unquote, look for the helpers. There was a Fred Rogers thing, and that's all I do now, I think, is you look for the helpers. You look for the people who want to be there for you, for your family, care, who want to make a difference, who want to teach their children how to be better people in this community, in this society. And I think I'm so fortunate for this community. I think I always say it's my silver lining. It's what keeps us going. It's what makes me believe that there's good in this world when such terrible things can happen.
Yes. Yes, it's very true. And when we always talk about, well, we need a sense of community, we need that support to help us through. I mean, this is a true definition because you don't see that a lot, right? A lot of people live in neighborhoods, they don't even know their neighbors. They just kind of drive into the garage. Nobody talks to each other, and everyone is so busy and life is so fast-paced. So to be able to have that kind of network that you can turn to for support, for help, is just it's an inspiration. And I'm so glad that you have that, because definitely it's in these difficult situations that we really really need that energy from other people to go on.
Especially when you feel so alone. You feel like you don't know.
Nobody understands what I'm going through. Yeah.
You're in the trenches. And to know you can make a phone call or someone will be around or anything else really makes all the difference.
Of course, of course. Now, how has all of this affected your family? Just to get more personal, your marriage, the strength to go on, to give, energy to your other kids, to even have the courage and the strength to have another child.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna, start with the end. Having my youngest was really hard. I couldn't imagine doing this again, and he has been the greatest blessing possible. I know a lot of parents in this space struggle with should they, can they do it again? And I think
Mhm.
it's unbelievable mental and physical hurdle to jump. But I think when you do it, I think that adding whatever you can do to add more joy to your life is a huge deal. And another child does that. My kids, I try so hard to foster an environment for my kids where they love their brother and care about their brother and want the best for him. And they're very young right now. And I'm hoping that that continues for the rest of their life. I hope that they become people that are inclusive and accepting and um, loving like they are now. And, but I can't lie to you, it definitely has this plays a humongous role in my marriage and my family. It's shaken us to our core. I mean, you get married and you have kids and you think you're going to face things, but you never think you're going to face a lifelong battle that really probably won't, doesn't have an end in most cases. And you have to have the strength to be able to get through it together. And some days are hard, and some days he's having a worse day, and sometimes I'm having a worse day, and sometimes we're both having a worse day. And you just don't know what the day's going to bring or what challenges my son is going to bring. But I feel fortunate that we're doing it together and that we're trying our best. And the other kids really do help to make it that much more palpable.
You guys, I think you're a super couple because normally in a lot of situations, it kind of separates. Because I know when there's something like this happens, or if there's like a death in the family, it pushes the couple apart. And there are a lot of cases it ends up in divorce, right? But in this situation, yes, the two of you have hard days, which you will and you should, and it's just totally normal. But you've chosen to take this difficult journey together, and you have a lot more good. You have a precious family. You have two other kids. You love each other. So you have so much good in that I feel like that surpasses the difficult times, as difficult as it may be. And that gives you your superpower as a couple. What advice do you have for others in a similar situation? For other couples, other moms?
As hard as times are, you're gonna appreciate the good times so much more. So this past Sunday, five of us were together and we went to a carnival. And I came back from that day like the happiest I've been in such a long time. We went on tons of rides and they got ice cream. And even though my son can't eat ice cream, he's with us. He's going on the train ride. He's doing things with them. And they're so excited to be with him. And I'm so happy to be with him out of my house. I think in a regular situation, would I really appreciate going with my kids to the carnival? No, not really. But I think in
Right.
this situation, you really do. And so I think you have to take those times and like savor them. So the next day, if something terrible happens or there's some sort of medical problem or whatever goes on, you have that to look back on and say, like, well, we did it. We're doing it and we did it. And I think taking it day by day is important. I was always told don't look too far ahead. I did not think we were going to get to 5 years. I didn't see it happening. I had no idea how we were going to do it in the beginning. And now he's five, and I'm like, oh my God, we got to five. Now I can't imagine 10. But I'm just like, I think
Right.
just take it little by little as opposed to looking so far down the road. You're going to help yourself so much.
I think that is such good advice, and really savoring the moment and being present and not worrying about tomorrow and the next day. Just enjoying that moment that you have together. I mean, I can see from the smile on your face that it was really a precious time for you. And that's at the end, that's what really matters. I realize almost five, his birthday is coming up, but how is he doing?
Eli Eli makes improvements. They're just very, very slow. So whereas a typical kid would learn how to transfer things into both hands. And, by the time they're a few months old, he's slowly gotten there now. So now we're looking at he's being able to transfer things from hand to hand. His he'll say hi to me if I keep screaming hi at him all day. He knows us. Like he'll know if I have to leave and I say goodbye, he knows. He'll make a noise because he knows I'm leaving. Or if one of us walks into the room and he knows our voice, he'll light up.
So
He
is
had
his main communication through like his eyes and
his,
like his hands, or?
his crying and laughing as his main communication. He had a rough little go of it recently, where he was like the sickest I've ever seen him, but he's doing better now. And
Does this affect his immunity as far as getting sick? And you said is he able to like to eat properly or no?
his immune system is weaker than most other people's immune systems. So he will get something. He'll get a virus that, a typical kid will get, but it'll hit him 10 times harder. So
Mm.
he had a typical virus 2 weeks ago, and he had a tube down his nose through his, because he couldn't take down water. In terms of eating, he's able to swallow, he's able to eat, but he's on very pure, mostly pureed foods,
Okay.
not so pureed. And then for water, we're kind of just pushing it down for him. But when he likes something, when he likes the food, he loves the food. So he has his favorite foods, and we try to stick to that kind of a diet. And I love what he's eating, and he's happy. He's doing okay. We're trying.
You're
It's
taking
hard.
it day by day. That's what
I
you're
bet.
doing.
It's hard to see a 5-year-old at this stage, but I have to remember that this is not the normal course, and this is just going to be what it is until we find that treatment.
Yes, yes, of course. Now, why did you decide to share your story from the beginning?
In the beginning, I was very hesitant in terms of meeting other people. I think I was too closed up. And once I met other people and joined support groups and familiarized myself with the community and met other fellow parents, I felt like a different person. And I wish I had done that sooner. So when I look back now, I think I like hearing other people's stories. I love a support group. I'm in multiple. I love hearing other people's stories. It makes you feel less alone. If there's somebody else that you can relate to, even
Mhm.
one other person, that's one other person than before. And you're not alone. If you're on the floor with your kid and he's having a seizure, there's somebody else out there who's facing the
Yes.
same thing as you. And to be able to know that, be able to hear people speak and then and hear them just resonating with one thing that they say, you walk away and you say, okay,
That's the moment that it's like, okay, I'm not alone. It's
not
not just me. It's not just my family or my child.
But even
Yes.
if it's anything different, like, there are things, people have tons of different things, but even just that feeling of being a parent and saying, I have a child with any kind of a difference, just
Yes.
differences. I don't live the typical normal life of a regular parent, but there are other people who have, tons of other things, but their feelings inside are the same.
And I have to say, realistically, a lot of times, unless you're in a very, very safe zone, I mean, I remember with my own kids too, it's like when parents or moms get together, they don't want to talk about everything that they're going to. They want to put this, facade of like, oh, everything's perfect. My child is perfect and we have the perfect family. Instead of using that, community or support system and saying, listen, I had such a bad day. I yelled at my child. I feel so guilty. I was crying. I lost my temper or whatever the situation may be. And I just feel like if we put that stuff aside and really get down and have a few people that are safe people to actually, because when one person is honest and admits what they're going through, then that opens up the door for the next person to say, oh, well, if she feels this way, then it's okay if I kind of confess what I'm going through. And that kind of just starts a nice conversation and support system. And just like you're saying, when we're resonating with each other, we feel a lot better. We feel lighter, and we need to feel lighter. And it doesn't matter what the challenge is. We all have challenges, and parenting is so difficult. So if we talk to one another and have that support system, that can give us so much, and we can learn from each other. Because, something that I've tried, maybe you haven't tried, that I will, share my tool with you, and you can learn from, each other's insights. That can make a huge difference.
Totally. This should be a community. As they say, it takes a village, but it should take a village. It should be a village of people who you could rely on, people you could listen to, who you'll listen to them. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be alone.
Exactly. Shouldn't. You shouldn't. So, what kind of a new perspective has this given you on parenting? I mean, obviously, as we spoke, parenting is one of the most difficult jobs in the world. But now, on top of regular parenting, you've been given another obstacle to deal with. So, how has this changed your perspective?
I think it's changed my perspective 100%. I don't know what kind of parent I would have been without this. This is the parent that I should be. The parent, I'm not saying I'm doing a great job, because I am not. But I think that this has taught me what's important, what to value, what to care about, what in terms of even with my other kids, like there are certain things that I just don't need to care about that maybe I would have cared about a lot more before.
Right.
But now I see what could be and
Mm.
how lucky they are to have the lives that they have. That it's taught me a lot about finding the things that are worth and actually are important enough to care about and the things that aren't. And just trying to be the right thing to all of them. And I think obviously I've learned that my kids need very different things than each other. As parents, we get so bogged down with little stuff that I don't know, life is short and you just have
Yeah.
no idea what could happen to you in one conversation, in one blink of an eye, in one test. That why not just try to let go of the little things?
Beautifully said. Um, what are two things that you would say that you've learned about yourself in general during this challenging journey?
Um, I'm stronger than I think. This feels weird because it feels like I'm not usually in this room. I think that I would think that I'm stronger than I think. I really didn't, as I keep saying before, like you talked to me in September 2019. That was it for me. I was just like, I was done. Um, but I think I've learned a lot about how to power through, how to care about my children even more than I care about myself, how to be the kind of person that I want my daughter to be. I think about that every single day. I say to my husband religiously, I want her to look at me. I want her to grow up and say, I can do this because my mom did this. I
Mhm.
can do this. I think about that all day. My son too. I think that it's taught me that people can do hard things. And I think that's really the bottom line. I think that we can do a lot more than we think that we can. And if we can't, then try to build yourself a community that will help you through it.
True, true. And I definitely think you are stronger than you believe, so for sure. And I do think by everything that you and your husband are doing, you have empowered such great tools for your children. I know they look up to you and they will, you know, you are their role models because they've seen what you are going through and you didn't give up and you're um giving everything you have to make this family of yours that is so precious work. So that's I commend you for that. That's incredible. Um Now, just in summary, I again, your journey is undeniably challenging, yet it radiates inspiration. The decision you and your husband made to actually harness your grief and transform it into a force for good does not only benefit your own son, but also countless others facing similar circumstances. Along this path, you have discovered the profound essence of humanity and community, just like we talked about. In moments of vulnerability, when we share our pain, and we need to share our pain so we can reach out for support, guidance, and assistance, then we unearth our inner strength and potential. Parenting, already one of life's most demanding roles, challenging one's ability to remain a devoted parent to other children, a supportive spouse, despite the obstacles you have been given. Scott and Alyssa's endurance, resilience, grit, and boundless love for each other and their cherished family is truly an inspiration. Their journey is a testament to the power of love, unity, and unwavering determination in the face of difficult times. Thank you, Alyssa, for being on my show today. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Thank you so much for giving me this platform to share my story. It really means so much to me and to my family. And if anybody wants to learn more about our story, you can look at our website, www.webelieveinacure.org, and reach out. I would love to meet anyone going through something similar also.
Wonderful. I will share all the links in my show notes for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for tuning in today to Female Fluence. Together we can influence and motivate other mind-like females. Your job is to feel alive, be in control, and always be true to your own self. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can continue feeling inspired. All the links and notes from this episode will be posted on my website, femalefluence.com. Don't forget to also follow me at Female Fluence on both Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, if you are in need of a woman empowerment life coach to help you identify the barriers that keep you from living the life you seek, please send an email to info@femalefluence.org. Remember, my friends, don't just exist, but live your life to the fullest. I'm your host, Pearl Mashur. Until we talk next time.